Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. It's time for New Thought today, and we've got something a little different for you here today. My brother and co-host, Reverend Elzia Sekou, is with us, and we have a very special guest. However, we did have to pre-record this episode due to some time constraints and such like that. So we do have a full-length episode that we've just recorded. We finished just a little while ago here, and this was all done earlier today. Our guest is Reverend Dr. David Bruner, and we're going to... And hello again. Whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. We're going to put this on full screen. I'm going to go into the background and let you watch our interview with Reverend Dr. David Bruner. We'll be back in a little bit. Enjoy. Dear ones, Dr. Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
I'm David right here.
And this is New Thought today here on the New Thought Media Network. Folks, I want you to know I am super, super excited because we have one of the coolest and grooviest people I think I've ever met on the planet as our guest today. That is Reverend Dr. David Bruner. I have so many great stories I could tell, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to learn a bit more today about his ministry, what he's doing in the world, and as we always talk about here on New Thought today, what's happening in the future. So, Dr. David, welcome aboard, and please let us know a little bit more. Let the audience know. What do we need to know about you to get started with this today?
Hello, everyone. I'm really, really happy to be here with you. And in a nutshell, I'm retired from pulpit ministry, but my spouse keeps reminding me I'm not retired. I'm in a second or an encore career. So I'm doing private one-on-one coaching full-time, 100% virtual, which is just delicious because no matter where I go in the world, as long as there's internet, I can do my work.
Yeah.
I'm loving the way my life is unrolling and unfolding. And people say, well, do you miss the pulpit? You know, it's remarkable. I don't miss most of it, but there are some things that I really, really miss, which makes me very excited to be here with you today. It's I miss group creation. I miss co-creation, and I miss the spontaneity that happens when people get together to explore an idea. So that's me pretty much in a nutshell.
Beautiful. Well, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. You say you're doing coaching. Are you focusing in any specific areas? Is it more spiritual or a little more? Are you reaching into the secular world a little? What's happening?
So I when I retired from the pulpit in San Jose in 2022, I took a couple of year-long courses, actually just before I retired, to get a certification to do NLP coaching, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It Science of Mind and NLP, they're like trains on parallel tracks. They're very similar. They're more like cousins speaking the same language with a different accent. I like to do integrative, so it's mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. My clients are doing things about weight, diabetes, starting a new business, mending rifts in relationships, and it's really quite fulfilling. It's a very, very good life. But if I were to give you my CV, it would probably be, it's a combination of my 40 years in science of mind, my time with NLP, 30 years of pastoral counseling, all of that comes to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Well, that's a lot. Because I think now that coaching piece is interesting, because in a more traditional church setting, pastoral counseling is a little bit different from coaching, but it's like you say, they're cousins. But the things that people deal with today traditionally wouldn't have been asked or even brought up in a pastoral counseling kind of way, unless somebody was really grounded and centered and, I'm vulnerable, I'm gonna lay it all out here kind of thing. And, that's just now happening, I think. And a lot of that is because the New Thought movement. You think about now in corporate America, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even, you started talking about meditation in a corporate office, a big corporate office, they look at you like you had two heads.
Yeah.
Now, meditation and acupuncture and all these things are offered as things they pay for in your insurance coverage. So this whole idea, I love the cousins and tracks, things running on parallel tracks, because that's life and that's what ministry is. Somehow we got skewed, but I love that. So I'm looking forward to following you and seeing how everything progresses.
Yeah, Elzia, I concur 100%. There's a big distinction that I've noticed in this work versus my time on a pulpit. And that is with my coaching clients, they have a specific goal or object that is identifiable and reachable.
Yes.
It's like programming a GPS. You have a specific address to where you want to get, as opposed to just meandering and
Yes.
having a lovely walk through the park. My clients identify and declare and flesh out a specific something, whether it's a body weight or their blood sugar levels or making X amount of dollars or getting married or
Mhm.
buying a house, let's say. They're very specific. However, I do notice that with almost every single session with my clients, we almost always steer away from their life area to which we're coaching to handle situational stuff, whatever's happening. A blow up with a spouse, they found out their kids are doing things they don't want them to do, or they're feeling uneasy, uncentered. So they're both happening at the same time.
Yeah.
It strikes me that there was a point in time where spiritual community was truly defined by a pulpit ministry. People didn't necessarily, they might have taken it outside the walls of the church a little bit, but that was only if we were all going to lunch together or a picnic together or something like that. And over time, and this happened, this started well before the pandemic, but was very, very, very much accelerated during the pandemic, a redefinition of what it means to be in spiritual community with someone. And alongside that, what I see is this kind of practical application. So it sounds like you're getting this opportunity, creating this opportunity, this way of taking all that, not only your lived experience, not only your church experience, not only the philosophy of New Thought, but being able to make that real and practical and approachable to people in their lives, in the real stuff, in what it means to have a country that appears to be divided, and what it means to have rising prices and all the various conditions of our lives. You kind of get into play in a different realm, it seems.
Yeah, totally. And that what you just brought up, it has been at the forefront of my mind and my heart for probably the immediate past. I don't know, guys, maybe 5 years. It was about 5 years ago or somewhere around there when I began to notice I began to become consciously aware. Let me pause a moment. I noticed a handful of years back that I would wake up in the morning and there was a noticeable absence of joy. And that was unusual for me because my natural default is happy, peppy, optimistic, pretty cheerful, and it's pretty authentic. But I did notice that there was sort of my first thoughts in the morning weren't, yay, it's the morning. It was sort of like, uh, and then the thoughts would just they would just generate and then regenerate. And that began to be a little worrisome for me because I began to wonder, am I losing my edge? Like, what's happening? Like, is it organic because now I'm middle-aged? Is it hormonal? But then I remembered something that you probably have heard of, race thought. Um, I, I learned, I remember it being pounded into my noggin from really, really good teachers, this thing about race thought. But race thought for me, I think up until a handful of years ago, it was theoretical. But I began to have the experience. I don't remember how it was that I began to emerge from that darkness, but I began to be aware that some of this feeling of unease or unhappiness or sorrow or sadness or anger or all of those things that are part of being human, that they may not necessarily be my own. I may just be plugging into groupthink. And that has helped me quite a bit because it alleviated some of my worry about what's wrong with me. Like, when did I become so pessimistic and easily triggered and so anyway, that's a lot of words to say what you just said. I've had a real life experience that now more than ever, it is vital that I do my own inner work, my own practice. It's vital. It's vital first for my family, for the people who share a house with me, because the last thing they need is more drama that I might be generating. And two, my clients and my peers and my friends and my community, they, I think now more than ever in my lifetime, they could probably use someone who is holding the high watch, who hasn't gone down the dark tunnel.
Yes.
Well, and you know, you bring up an excellent point, I think, in that a couple, if not a thousand, right? But two things that stick out, and Robert and I talk about this quite frequently, and that is, especially as New Thought metaphysicians, practitioners, how do we take life holistically? The up and the down, the left and the right, the yin and the yang, or the dreaded good and the bad, because it's those things that makes the whole, right? So it's like the statement that if no one told you what up was, down would have absolutely no meaning. I got no reference point to what down is, and know what up is. And so this idea of awakening or realizing that, okay, sometimes I am down because I know what up is, and that is the ebb and flow of life. And so when I can begin to look at that and self-care and say, okay, I'm down today, I'm not going to deal with too many people because I'm gonna mess them up, right? I'm coming in with both guns loaded. And now begin to work that and begin to say, okay, perfect. This is the thing called life. Now I get to use these tools of how to alleviate that or how to minimize that. And that's what ministry and metaphysics and all that. How do I take this this theoretical information and put it into practice?
Excellent point. While you were speaking, Elzia, I was thinking about something I learned from another organization years ago that would probably get some kickback or pushback from my current perception of New Thought in today's world. And that is basically everything that happens is a neutral event. No. there will be people who will argue with that, but I want to bracket the argument and put it aside for just a moment. If I approach whatever's happening as just a neutral event, I can come from a sense of neutrality and transform it, heal it, remove it, release it. But it's a very tricky time right now because there's a lot of evidence. And when I say evidence, everything that gets flying around on the internet, it happens so fast. People just, they get it and they share it. They get it and they share it as if it's actually real, which just reinforces the realness of it, which I'm finding not to be good for my soul. It poisons my soul. So on purpose, a handful of years ago, I started reaching out to the far right and the far left to make sure I was getting as much data and information as I could and as much of a broad perspective as was possible, because I personally needed this. I want to say I needed to be satisfied that my world is actually okay. And that doesn't negate the things that are not working, that need to be workable, or the things that need to be healed. That's a whole different story, and it's a different conversational domain. But for me, as a man and as a spouse and as a son-in-law, because I live in a multilingual household, by the way. So Spanish, I married a Mexican, and my mother-in-law, she's 89 and she lives with us and doesn't speak a word of English, although she pretends she does. So I'm learning Spanish in the deep end in my house. But why I bring them up? They need me to be at the top of my game all the time, because it's my aim not to be a burden, but an add-on. It is my aim to make a contribution to this family and not be a detriment.
Wow, I love that. I really, really love that. Thank you. It makes me want to get a Spanish-speaking mother-in-law, actually, because I've been promising to learn Spanish forever.
Here's how you learn it, Robert. Let me first-hand experience. Here's how I'm learning it. First off, make sure English is not an option.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, if English is not an option, for example, my spouse, Mauricio, he is fluent in both languages. In fact, he knows English better than me, although he sounds like Ricky Ricardo, which is delicious. However, his use of English is way, way past mine. It startles me sometimes. And so he and his mom will be talking, and I'll ask in Spanish, well, what does that word mean? And he'll answer with the English word. That doesn't help me. But if my mother-in-law and I if we go to Costco, Walmart, or Walgreens, everything you could possibly want to know about a language exists in those places. There's health, fitness, sex, food, animals, produce, the earth, all of it is there. And when you're with someone who does not speak English, you'll ask, like, well, what does that word mean? They'll give you another word in Spanish, and you're in a rhythm. It's fascinating to watch how that works. Okay. So it's really been a gift.
I love it.
And you know what's funny in that regard? My daughter is a teacher, and she's in a multilingual, multicultural environment in her classroom. And so she's become pretty fluent in Spanish, and she has now recorded her voicemail on her phone in Spanish. So when I call her, every time I have to say, wait a minute, did I dial the wrong number? I have no idea what she's saying. I got to learn, but it's going to, as you say, at that point, English is not an option because she's not doing it in both Spanish and English. It's only in Spanish.
And you can consider yourself fluent when you lose words in two languages.
There you go. Okay.
When I find myself in Spanish going,
I love it. This all thank you. This is so much fun. And in all of this, I'm sparked back to Z said something about what's going on, and to me it seems very disingenuous by a lot of spiritual teachers and a lot of spiritual leaders that are avoiding the conversations that are happening in society today. And my wife and I made a commitment. We marched on Saturday with here in the Denver area, and we made a real commitment to each other that we want to show up as love. We don't want to show up in opposition. We don't want to show up in hatred. We want to show up in love. And um, and that isn't exactly the easiest thing when you're walking down the street shoulder to shoulder with a whole bunch of people, and the predominant thought is F this guy and F those folks, um and I was actually very happy in that it felt like we were able to navigate in the regards to not just move a little bit away from that expression, that negative expression, but to, in our own way, it's maybe not hugely vocal, or by shifting a chant, or just by being that presence of love, able to shift. And I believe that thanks to our efforts and countless others, that march was peaceful that day, even with some F's this and some F's that. And so I'm really interested in how each of you are navigating this time that we're in, where it is, because it was really easy. It would have been really easy to join my voice to those chants. It would have been and it is so easy for some right now to slip into this. I've been playing with this idea that violence as self-defense is somehow valid. And I'm in the position where I don't believe it is, but I hear this coming forward from New Thought, from the left side of the conversation, in other places where this, if it's in self-defense and only I get to determine that, I can get violent and it's okay. If shouting F Trump is self-defense of my self-care or my perception, it's okay to go down that road of violence. Thoughts, feelings?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Thanks for the show, Robert. We'll see you again next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't want to deprive our guests of having a full-on expression of this, so I'm gonna let David go first.
That's very generous of you. Do we call you Z? Okay, that's very generous of you. Firstly, as a religious science minister, if I were still in a pulpit, it would be vital for me personally, from my perspective, from my own ministry, my own rootedness in what I believe about life and what's real for me.
Mm-hmm.
That when people leave my congregation to go home, to go to brunch, to go take care of their kids, or do what, that they leave there actually hopeful and optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding that it would be very tempting to use the pulpit for a political perspective. Mm-hmm. So at this stage, it's a good thing that I'm not in one, because I wouldn't be one. I personally, you won't see me marching. You won't see me holding banners. You will not see me posting publicly about my political perspective. You will not see it. I remember when the election happened in 2016. I remember watching, first with curiosity and then with horror, or maybe first with horror and then curiosity, how proud some of my peers were to jettison their family who voted differently than them. Mm-hmm. And I found myself getting sad while I was watching from afar how it would be justifiably easy to block, unfriend, argue with. Anyway, the reason why I think horror was happening was because I had turmoil inside myself. and I had left enough trails of wounded people behind me in my decades of ministry that I did learn to do as little damage as possible. So as I was maturing as a man and a minister, I began to have some, I don't know, some knowledge. Thank you, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Buddha, and all of the saints that I finally got. If I have nothing positive to contribute, the least I could do is to not create more damage. So what I'm noticing is if I were, let's say if I were the type to want to march, to want to protest anything, regardless of the side, I would first make sure I was in check, that I'm not marching from the conviction of the absence of good. So there was a class I learned from Dr. Kathy Ann Lewis in Seattle, and I borrowed it. She led me, and I totally made it my own. But it was basically a year-long, the Best of David course. Like it was, this is a year's worth of how I live my life. These are the guideposts. These are the lighthouses of my life. And one of them is when I'm not centered internally and externally, when I'm finding that there's turmoil inside of me, or there's a bit of bitterness on my tongue or in my soul or in my heart, I probably have what Emma Curtis Hopkins called conviction. But I have conviction of the absence of good. So I can see that this is now probably a tricky time to be on a pulpit or to be in spiritual leadership, because there's enough evidence to prove to you that there's an absence of good. Now, what happens in that place for me personally is that I'm pretty much then becoming I'm circling the drain. I'm powerless, and I'm at the mercy of what's happening externally. And at this point in my life, I am on purpose staying in my little cave up on a hill, taking care of my inner world, because the people immediately around me, they need my rock solidness and my certainty, my optimism and my hopefulness, and that won't come while I'm in opposition to anything. Now, I'm not saying that the opposition is not necessary, but that's not mine to do, because I'm too susceptible to becoming bitter and mean and nasty. And then I'm smart enough, I'm not really smart, but I'm smart enough to use, for example, the science of mind to justify my bitterness and my conviction in the absence of good. But then I remember Science of Mind, page 52, that quote. It's the most insane, and I know it off the top of my head, but it would not be doing justice to miss any words. But here, hence it follows, if that we believe it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then according to principle, it does not. But even when it does not, it still does, only it does according to our belief that it will not.
Exactly.
I love it.
I don't know if I just ran away from the question or the topic, but it's very tricky right now. How could I take a stand against something? How could I do that while remaining in a simultaneous place of expectancy of positive outcome?
Right.
So that's the job I'm taking. I'll bless all those people who are doing everything else, but mine is not to be vocal and create more division.
And that's a great segue. I'm glad I let you go first. Because I think and we'll see if you agree, but I think it was very appropriate, because as someone who grew up in the South during the 60s and 70s, when there was all sorts of turmoil, the Black church was everything. It was the marchers, it was the doctors who bandaged your head if you got hit during the march. It was those people who didn't march, but they drove you to the march. There were those who may have been younger who made the signs, right? So there was this team, if you will, that supported what needed to be done at that time at the level that they were. Now, I've been on a bunch of edges for a long time, and sometimes the edge gets too thrilling, and I don't want to be out there no more. So for me now, like Robert asked me, was I coming to march? I said, nah, I didn't, trust me, I didn't march in some places that you don't want to march. And I think the brilliance and the beauty of what you said is that first and foremost, everything is not for everybody. That's the first thing. The second thing that you said is you have to find your lane and stay in it, right? If I'm a, I have a friend, he was asking me about NASCAR because they had the NASCAR driving. And I said, dude, I grew up in the South. It's drag racing. I don't know nothing about NASCAR. But if you start talking about drag racing and gassers and double A gassers and funny cars, let's go to work. And so I understood, and I understand better and better each day what I can contribute, how I can be of value in the specific thing that's happening now. And I just try to do the best I can, right? And I think when we can do that as individuals, that wholeness that we seek, that world that works for all just falls into place. And so that's my take on it, because it's rough out there.
There's a distinction I learned from landmark education. Do you forgive me for stepping on your words, Robert?
No,
go for it.
There's a distinction. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm always in education somehow. I'm always taking a class, and very often it's not in science of mind. I'll take Skill Path, Coursera, landmark education, whatever I can get my hands on. And currently it's exploring some Jungian dream exploration, which is magical and over the top.
Yes.
But there's a distinction that landmark education uses, and they call it practices for extraordinary living. And it's another parallel train to the science of mind. Practices for extraordinary living. There's like 6 or 7 words, but one of them is being peaceful. And being peaceful, here's their definition. Being peaceful is giving up the interpretation that there's something wrong here, even when there's something wrong here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So at this stage, when I'm watching world events, and by the way, not every religious scientist is a progressive.
Okay.
Although anybody who's conservative or independent or even liberal nowadays and not progressive is probably going into the closet for fear of being ostracized or being run out of town. But being peaceful is giving up the interpretation that there's something wrong here, even when there's something wrong here. That is one of the most magical spells, concoctions I've ever taken. So even when I find myself unsettled, I notice there's some part of me now that says, give up the interpretation, there's something wrong here, even though there's something wrong here. When I give up the interpretation, there's something wrong here, I find myself in neutral territory, the place from which something new can be born. And when I don't give up the interpretation, there's something wrong here, I tend to follow it down the rat hole of there's something wrong here. And I find more evidence and more algorithms that will prove to me there's something wrong here. And then I'm just bat crazy. Another one is being powerful. Being powerful is to ask for what you want and take what you get. And this is not a good thing for religious scientists. What? Most religious scientists they'll ask for what they want and then secretly complain about what they get. Or they ask for what they want and then they're upset about what they get. But if you could really ask for what you want and then take what you get, you're in a position of power, because you can always ask again. Mauricio has proven that to me. He asks for what he wants, he takes what he gets, and then he asks again and again and again. And that's a great role model. That might have been a non sequitur.
We're all good.
Okay.
And we do need to take a break, folks. Let a couple of our sponsors say hello and thank you to you. Let you know a little bit more that's going on around New Thought Media Network. However, I feel like as always, I'm getting to sit at the feet of a master when we get together and talk. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to be right back with more with Reverend Dr. David Bruner here on New Thought Today. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Convention of the Americas 2025, Rising Together. Join us for a truly bilingual retreat experience on the shores of the beautiful Lake Chapala, Mexico. July 22nd through July 26th, 2025, at the Hotel Villa Monte Carlo in Jalisco, Mexico. Featuring Reverend Jeffrey Ryan, Dr. Jose de Lira Sosa, Reverend Dr. Kathy Ann Lewis, Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse, and Reverend Dr. David Bruner. Registration is now open, and payment plans are available. Simply visit www.conventionoftheamericas.com. Come be part of a transformative gathering with powerful presentations, workshops, networking time, and just good old relaxing and connecting. Plus, you can learn more about the science of mind and how to live this powerful philosophy in your life. Transform your life at Convention of the Americas 2025, Rising Together.
Ready.
And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Dr. Robert Brzezinski, my co-host, Reverend Elzia Sekou, and our special guest, Reverend Dr. David Bruner, is with us today. We've been having a fabulous conversation, and David, I didn't set you up for this question because it kind of struck me in the middle of our conversation. But I know recently online I've been seeing some pictures of some folks that have been doing the AIDS life cycle. And I know you used to do the AIDS life cycle a lot and did it for a number of years. And not being in the Bay Area anymore, I didn't see any pictures of you out there on your bike. So I feel like there's a little tear that I have for you, because I can only imagine how transformative. And then you just shared with us, we've got to be okay with everything, even when it appears there's something wrong, when there's nothing wrong. And so, what's it been like that you had to kind of? Do you have any of those things? Those little human pulls when you see colleagues or friends that are out on the road and you're not there this year?
We signed up for it. We signed up for it a year ago, and before we got into the fundraising stage, we just realized we could do that, which is magical and amazing. And I loved it, and I love the people. Or I could sit on the beach in Puerto Vallarta, and I opted for Mexico because I married a Mexican family, and they have houses all over the place, and we just go where we go. So I'm glad you brought that up. I saw some pictures, and I had a couple of nostalgic, and there was a part of me who went, but I remember being cold and fixing flat tires and not sleeping well around all those tents. And so it was a beautiful part of my past.
Yeah.
A very beautiful part of my past. Robert, it's very, very interesting. I'm at such an interesting stage of like a neutrality. I'm not who I was, and I'm certainly not who I'm going to be should I live another day. I'm in a really interesting place of going, my first 55, 58 years was an outward journey, acquisition, building the church, self-transformation, being transformed and transforming for others, watching others transform and transform others. And that journey was pretty external. The new journey I'm on, it is an internal journey, and it's really quite I want to say it's just magic and blissful and rainbows and unicorns and fairy dust. Sometimes it's like what? But there's a part of me that is comfortable with what is, and I'm finding it kind of sweet. So thank you for bringing up the sweetness. AIDS life cycle was a magical part of my past, and right now I'm quite content. And living in Utah, like Utah. Still, for any of you who are surprised that I moved to Utah, I promise you, I'm even more surprised. And it's beautiful here.
I was going to say that knowing where you live now, that's not fairy dust that's blowing across your backyard. It might be a little radiation in that dust that's blowing across. That's good old-fashioned desert dust you're playing with now, sir. So
And the mountains are majestic. Like I built this office on purpose with this massive window. I look at the Wasatch and I look at a lake, and it's like, whoa. The I can keep staring at the mountains, and they speak to me, but I don't know their language yet. It's kind of like when I first met Mauricio's mother, and she would be speaking to me in Spanish. We're talking 18 years ago. I knew she was talking to me, but I had no idea what she was saying. That's what's going on living where I'm living. They're speaking to me, but I don't know their language yet, but I'm hopeful. And you're looking at the same mountain range from the other side.
Yes. And you brought up a couple of good points for me. The first one is that my father would always tell me when I was, I don't know, confused or full of myself or anything in between. And he would say very simply, just keep living. Just keep living, because whatever you think now, just keep living. It's going to change. That's what life is. And it made me think about, something that I spent a lot of time with, and that's rites of passage. I've done some decent study in Egyptology and looking at that whole ancient Egyptian system of initiates. And I think one thing that's missing in New Thought is the initiation into different levels of being in community. In an ancient Egyptian or ancient African society, there was an initiation for everything, from preconception to ancestral realm. And each one of those initiations put you in a mind-shifting consciousness, whether you were on the planet already or had left it, that allowed you or gave you at least the opportunity to take another look at life. You've experienced things at this level of understanding, of experience, of, ebb and flow. Now take another step to the next realm of life. We say life is in stages and we're in concentric circles or spirals. Point zero at level 1 is very similar to point zero at level 2, but then it's all the same, different at the same time. And so when we can understand that, as we teach in metaphysics, that we live in an energetic, vibratory rate place. And at different levels, the energy is the same, but the rate or the velocity or the oscillation is different. And so when you step on 2, I can't do the same things I did at 1. And I think as we begin to mature as an organization, we will begin, I hope, to develop that so that there's a place for everybody. And we really begin to start looking at a world that works for all, because I am not the same person I was when I was 20. Although I think I am sometime, and it gets me in a lot of trouble. My ankle is hurting right now because I out there running thinking I'm 20, and
Or passing a mirror shirtless and going, when did that happen? Like, when did I get a dad bod? Like, come on.
I saw a picture of myself recently. I was like, ooh, shit. That's a little more of a beer belly, and I don't even drink beer anymore. So I need to do something here.
Yeah, and give up the interpretation that there's something wrong here, even if there's something wrong here.
There we go. We got to write that one down. There's your hot take for the day, folks.
Yes.
Well, I got another one.
Okay.
It's one of those things that's present for me in my personal life right now, and that is, may I outlast my impulses. Outlast my impulses. That's my prayer. Just outlast my impulse. Whether my impulse is to lash out, my impulse is to eat or drink this or that, my impulse is to fire off a mean email, to outlast my impulses.
And even the other direction, outlast my impulse to leave that email sit there for a week before I respond, or outlast my procrastination habits and things of that nature. That this I like that. Thank you.
I like that too. It's a good twist.
Cool. Folks, we're going to take another real quick break and say thank you to our organizational sponsors and individual donors. But we've got a little bit more coming up with Dr. David Bruner here, including our final thoughts on New Thought today. Please don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We'll be back right after this message. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Back with more of New Thought today. Our guest today has been Reverend Dr. David Bruner. And, you know, Dr. David, we often in our second segment or even our third segment, we talk about what people see for the future of New Thought and what's coming in the future. However, as I've been listening to you today, that just doesn't feel like the question, because what I've heard from you is a theme. And that theme is that you are actually living in the question at the moment. You are in that place of deep listening and open to what's revealing itself, more so than trying to put a bow on it or articulate it or share it with people. I've heard this neutrality piece in what you've shared with us today along the way. So yeah, it kind of leads me to what hot takes or what great wisdoms are boiling or are bubbling within you that you haven't had a chance to share with us today.
But while you asked that question, something came very alive for me. So I remember vividly March 13, 2020, when we were instructed by Santa Clara County that we were out of business, shut down. And then began the most terrifying, beautiful period of my ministry. I was suddenly in a very large room all by myself with a couple of other people, and then spontaneity, an authenticity I didn't even know was possible began to emerge, and a real comfort with who I am and what I'm up to. But why I bring that up is I think, this is just my theory, given the limited data I have. 200 years from now, we could look back on this and go, you are so way wrong. However, I think what's happening to religious organizations across the board, Buddhist, Taoist, Hindu, Jew, etc., what's been happening is a trend that was happening that COVID just accelerated. I don't think COVID caused anything that wasn't already, didn't already have inertia. And I think what will be, nobody individually actually knows, but I think collectively we will invent. So the only way I think I could actually answer that question is I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea how it will unfold. However, I guess for it to unfold in a way that is vibrant and with a crescendo or a growing or a growth, in order for that to happen, it's going to be something we can't even imagine right now, or something we haven't talked about. I don't think it will happen while we continue trying to reinvent what has been, because we've been pretty good. We invented a really good product. It produced a lot of really great results. And And I think if we keep going back to it, it's like going, we need to go to the nursery, not to the morgue.
Mm.
Okay, there's another tagline. Go to the nursery, not the morgue. Like, go to the nursery for volunteers and not to the morgue. Go to the nursery for what's next and next steps. That's what I would think, which is why a 59-year-old man is very good right now being isolated in a room with just clients and not a pulpit of my own.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks, we are almost running out of time here today. So we're going to kick it off with some final thoughts and let you get back into your day. But we always do our final thoughts. So Elzia, how about kick us off here?
Yeah. I mean, this has been a rich conversation, and I think the thing that just sits with me as we've had this time together is that we have to return. I'll take the have to out. I would suggest that we return to the mystery. When we look at the teachings of ancient wisdom, it was a mystery of why the sun came up every day. It was a mystery of why ladies could have babies and we couldn't. It was a mystery as to why the Nile River rose and flew and the river flows backwards. When we can begin to understand that it's all a mystery and that the pertinent point is the type of question that you ask, how inquisitive you are, how observant you are, that you begin to see the one thing I love of the many things about ancient societies and specifically Egypt, they had the process of becoming, raw becoming every day, going into the underworld, into a mysterious thing, but there was the process of becoming and being new with a new perspective every day. That's what we have to get back to, because they made things in the ancient world. We think we're so technologically advanced. They've sent a bunch of crews to Egypt. None of them can make a pyramid with no cement, with blocks or blocks on the pyramid that are the size of freight train cars. That's because they was in the mystery. They observed, they witnessed, and they asked the question. That's a long last final thought, but I just felt moved to say that.
Well,
I like it, by the way. I like it.
yes, absolutely. Dr. David, for you.
I think if there's an overarching inner commandment, it is for me, act like, forgive me for taking time. It was act like the person you want to become.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Like, if I want to be happy, I want to be peaceful, act happy, act peaceful. Yeah. If I want to be to give up the truth, I think it's Ernest Holmes to badly paraphrased, which I'm really good at, by the way. I'm really good at badly paraphrasing. To abandon the truth in our hour of need is to prove we did not know the truth. And I'm just noticing right now that there are moments in the world that I see, I go, you're abandoning truth, David. And that's to prove I didn't know it. So right now, more than ever, I need to do my inner work. And thank you, by the way, gentlemen. Thank you for this time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for this time. It's always a fabulous conversation. And I remember more than a few coaching sessions with you where I just walk away like starstruck in that, wow, I didn't know we were going there in a half an hour. And so this has been a great journey, and thank you for that as well. I hope we'll get you back again at another time. Folks, I'm not going to add anything because I don't think there's anything more to be said today, other than come back next week, because we're going to have Reverend Deborah Johnson's going to be with us next week here on New Thought Media Network. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Join us and check out our YouTube page. There's playlists there with all of our past interviews and all of our past episodes. Please check that out. If today's the day where you'd like to donate a little something, feel free to visit the website, ntmedia.org/donate. and that website will take you from there. Until next time, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.